What happens when the mate you were born to love casts you aside like worthless trash? For Alara Whitestone, life as an Omega in the Silvercrest pack meant silence, servitude, and survival. While alphas and betas paraded their strength beneath the full moon, she scrubbed floors and kept her eyes down. Her wolf buried so deep, she sometimes wondered if it existed at all. But tonight was supposed to be different. Tonight, the alpha heir would announce his mate before the entire pack. And the moon goddess herself had whispered to Alara in dreams, "He is yours." But when Kale Thornridge stood before hundreds of witnesses, looked straight into her hopeful eyes and declared, "I, Alpha Kale Thornridge, reject you, Alara Whitestone, as my mate," the bond didn't just break. It shattered. And in that moment of unbearable agony, something ancient stirred beneath her skin. Something that had been sleeping, bound, waiting. And what happens next? No one was prepared for. The rejection ceremony took place in the Great Stone Amphitheater at the heart of Silvercrest territory, where pack law had been enforced for 3 centuries. Alara had spent the entire day in a haze, her heart hammering against her ribs as the mate bond hummed beneath her skin. A golden thread that had appeared 3 days ago, linking her to Kyle with an intensity that stole her breath. She'd told no one. Who would believe her? An Omega, destined for an Alpha heir? The scent of anticipation hung thick in the air. Leather and wildfire from the Alphas, clean cotton and earth from the Betas, and beneath it all, the faint nervousness radiating from her fellow Omegas. Alara stood at the edge of the crowd, her simple gray dress a stark contrast to the rich fabrics worn by higher-ranked wolves. Her long dark hair hung loose around her shoulders, and she twisted her fingers together, trying to calm the wild hope rising in her chest. The moon goddess doesn't make mistakes, she told herself. The bond is real. Kale emerged from the Alpha's lodge, and the crowd fell silent. He was magnificent, tall and broad-shouldered, with dark hair that caught the torchlight and eyes like molten amber. His scent rolled over the assembled pack, forest and embers, ozone and steel. Power incarnate. Every unmated female in the territory had dreamed of being chosen by him. Alara's wolf stirred for the first time in years, a whisper of recognition that made her gasp. "Mate," it whispered. "Ours." Kyle's father, Alpha Rowan, Seer raised his hands. "Tonight, my son claims his destined mate. Tonight, the future of Silvercrest is secured." Kale's gaze swept the crowd. For one heartbeat, his eyes met Alara's, and she saw it. The flash of recognition, the pull of the bond. Her heart soared. Then his expression hardened. His lip curled. "I have found my fated mate," Kale announced, his voice carrying across the amphitheater. "The moon goddess has spoken." Alara took a trembling step forward. Around her, wolves began to notice, their gazes following Kale's line of sight. Whispers erupted. "The Omega? No, that's impossible. The goddess wouldn't." "However," Kale continued, his voice cutting through the murmurs like a blade, "I am an Alpha. I will lead this pack into a new era of strength and dominance. I will not be shackled to weakness." The words hit Alara like physical blows. She felt the blood drain from her face. "No," she whispered. "Kale, please." "I, Alpha Kale Thornridge," he declared, his voice ringing with authority and finality, "reject you, Alara Whitestone, as my mate." The bond snapped. Alara's scream tore through the night as agony unlike anything she'd ever known ripped through her chest. It felt like her soul was being torn in half, jagged edges scraping against her ribs, fire and ice warring in her veins. She collapsed to her knees, clutching her chest as the golden thread that had connected her to Kale withered and died, leaving a gaping wound in its place. The scent of her pain flooded the amphitheater, rain-soaked earth and crushed lavender, the bitter tang of grief. Through her tears, she saw Kale turn away, like his jaw clenched. His hand reached out, and another woman stepped forward. Mira Blackwood, a beta with perfect golden curls and a cruel smile. Beautiful, ambitious, connected to powerful families across 3 territories. "I choose strength," Kyle announced, taking Mira's hand. I choose the future of this pack. Mira's scent, cinnamon and iron and blood, wafted over Ilara as the beta pressed close to Kale, her eyes glittering with triumph as she looked down at the broken Omega. Guards, Alpha Rowan commanded, remove her. She is no longer welcome in Packlands. Father, Ilara gasped, looking toward the crowd. Her parents stood among the Omegas, their faces pale. Mother. Her father, gray-haired and stooped from years of labor, wouldn't meet her eyes. Her mother gripped his arm, tears streaming down her face, but neither moved. Neither spoke. Please, Ilara sobbed as two beta guards hauled her to her feet. I didn't do anything wrong. The bond. It was real. The bond was a mistake, Kyle said coldly, finally looking at her. You are a mistake. They dragged her through the crowd. Wolves parted before her like she carried plague. Some looked away in shame. Others sneered. Mira laughed, the sound high and musical and poisonous. At the border of Packlands, the guards threw her to the ground. The temperature had dropped with the setting sun, and frost already glittered on the grass. Beyond the tree line, the forest stretched dark and endless. Neutral territory, where rogues hunted and pack law didn't reach. You have until dawn to be gone from our borders, one guard said. If you're found here after sunrise, you'll be killed as a rogue. They left her there, shivering in her thin dress, with nothing but the clothes on her back and the shattered remains of her heart. Ilara pulled herself to her feet and stumbled into the forest. The blizzard came out of nowhere. One moment, Ilara was pushing through underbrush, her arms wrapped around herself against the cold. The next, wind shrieked through the trees and snow fell in blinding sheets, turning the world into a white void. She'd been walking for hours. Or was it days? Time had lost meaning somewhere between the third stream crossing and the moment her legs had started to give out. Her dress was soaked through. Her lips had turned blue. She couldn't feel her fingers anymore. The scent of pine and ice filled her nose, but beneath it lurked something else. The musky, wild smell of animals. Predators. They were tracking her. She could hear them moving through the trees, staying just out of sight. She needed shelter. Needed warmth. Needed... there. Through the curtain of snow, she glimpsed a structure, an old barn, half collapsed, its roof sagging under decades of neglect. It was barely standing, but it was something. Ilara fell through the entrance and collapsed against the far wall, her teeth chattering so violently she bit her tongue. Blood filled her mouth, warm and copper bright. The barn offered minimal protection from the storm, but at least the wind wasn't quite so brutal here. This is it, she thought distantly. This is where I die. The mate bond wound throbbed in her chest, a phantom pain that wouldn't fade. She wondered if Kale felt it too, wherever he was. Probably not. He'd probably already completed the mating ceremony with Mira, claiming her before the pack, marking her throat with his fangs. The thought should have hurt more, but Ilara was too cold to feel much of anything anymore. Her eyes drifted closed. I'm sorry, she thought, though she didn't know who she was apologizing to. The moon goddess? Her wolf, which had never truly awakened? Herself? Darkness swallowed her whole. Warmth. That was the first thing Ilara noticed when consciousness returned. Blessed, impossible warmth surrounding her like a cocoon. The second thing was the breathing. Deep, rhythmic, coming from all around her. Her eyes flew open. She was still in the barn, but the barn was no longer empty. Massive shapes surrounded her in the darkness. Wolves, their bodies pressed close, sharing heat. They were enormous. Far larger than any pack wolf she'd ever seen, their fur thick and silver gray in the moonlight filtering through the broken roof. Ilara's breath caught. 1, 2, 3. She counted them, her heart racing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 wolves, arranged in a protective circle around her, their eyes gleaming in the darkness like stars. They'd kept her alive, shared their body heat through the worst of the storm. Why? The largest wolf, directly in front of her, lifted its massive head. Its eyes were an impossible shade of silver blue, almost glowing. Intelligence burned there, ancient and knowing. This was no ordinary animal. The wolf's form began to shift. Bones flowed like water, fur receding, limbs lengthening. Within seconds, a man knelt where the wolf had been. He was older than Kale, perhaps in his mid-30s, ours with silver-shot dark hair and a face marked by old scars. He wore simple traveling clothes, and his scent, aged oak and winter snow and pine and distant storm, washed over her, powerful and calming in equal measure. "Easy," he said, his voice deep and gentle. "You're safe." Alara tried to speak, but her throat was too raw. The man, the Alpha, she could sense his power radiating from him like heat from a forge, reached into a pack she hadn't noticed and pulled out a water skin. "Drink," he commanded softly. Slowly. She obeyed, the cool water soothing her damaged throat. Around her, the other 9 wolves remained in their animal forms, watchful and protective. "Who?" she managed. "Who are you?" The man smiled, and it transformed his scarred face into something almost beautiful. "My name is Theron Ashwood. Yes, we are the Shadowbound Guard, and we've been waiting for you, Alara Whitestone." Her name on his lips sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with cold. "Waiting?" she whispered. "How do you know my name?" "Because the prophecy foretold your coming," Theron said. "Because we've been searching for you for the last 10 years. And because, little Omega—" His eyes glowed brighter. "You were never an Omega at all." The world tilted. "I don't understand," Alara breathed. Theron stood, offering his hand. After a moment's hesitation, she took it. His palm was warm and calloused, his grip steady as he helped her to her feet. The other wolves rose with her, a coordinated movement that spoke of years fighting together. "There's an old legend," Theron began, guiding her to sit on a relatively intact hay bale while he crouched before her. "Passed down through the oldest packs, whispered by the moon goddess herself to those who still listen. It speaks of a time when our kind will face a great darkness, when the old laws will fail and the packs will turn on each other, and in that moment of desperation she will rise." "She?" Ilara echoed. "The matriarch," Theron said reverently. "Born under a blood moon, marked by the goddess, her power bound by those who feared what she would become. She would come of age in suffering, rejected by the one she was meant to transform. And when the binding shattered..." He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched his fingers to her chest right over her heart. She would awaken. A wave of power washed over Ilara at his touch, and for the first time since the rejection, she felt it. Something stirring deep within her, ancient and vast and utterly her own. "The binding," she whispered. "What binding?" Theron's expression darkened. "Someone suppressed your wolf when you were very young. Powerful magic, woven into your very bones. It's why you never shifted, why you seemed weak, why you were classified as Omega. But the magic had a flaw. It was tied to your emotional state, to your pain. Great suffering could crack it, and a mate bond breaking would shatter it completely," Alara finished, understanding crashing over her like a wave. "Who?" she demanded. "Who would do that to a child?" Theron's silence was answer enough. "My parents," she breathed, horror and betrayal warring in her chest. "Ori, my parents did this to me." "They acted out of fear," a new voice said. One of the other wolves had shifted. A woman with dark skin and gray-streaked hair pulled back in a warrior's braid. "When you were born during the blood moon and the goddess marked you, your parents panicked. They didn't want the responsibility, didn't want the danger that comes with harboring such power. So they stole my wolf," Alara said flatly. "They stole my life." "They couldn't steal it," Theron corrected gently. "Only suppress it. The prophecy promised you would rise when the time was right, and here you are." Alara looked around at the 10 wolves, 9 still in animal form, 1 human, who watched her with unwavering loyalty. "Why are you here? Why search for me?" "Because we are the Shadowbound," the woman said, "one chosen by the goddess herself to serve and protect the matriarch. We've lived for centuries, waiting, searching. Some of us..." Her voice softened. "Some of us had nearly given up hope." "Centuries," Alara gasped. "We are not ordinary wolves," Theron explained. We are dire, ancient protectors blessed by the moon goddess with long life and enhanced power. Our purpose is singular, to guard the matriarch and help her claim her rightful place. A tremor ran through Alara's body. And if I don't want this, if I just want to disappear, to be left alone? Theron's expression was compassionate but unyielding. Your wolf is waking, Alara. The binding is broken. You can't stop what's coming any more than you can stop the moon from rising. The only question is whether you'll embrace it or let it consume you. As if summoned by his words, something moved inside her. Not the faint whisper she'd felt before, but a presence, powerful, ancient, and wholly awake. Finally, a voice rumbled through her mind, feminine and fierce. Finally, you hear me, Alara gasped. There's something inside me. Theron smiled. Not something, someone, your wolf, your true self, meeting you for the first time. I am Lunara, the voice said, and I am fury incarnate. Pain lanced through Alara's body, but it wasn't the agony of the rejection. This was different. A burning, stretching sensation, like waking up after years of being frozen. The scent of lavender and morning dew and wildflowers exploded from her skin, so potent that the shadow-bound wolves whined and bowed their heads. It's starting, the woman said, awe in her voice. Ilara, Theron said urgently, eye gripping her shoulders. Listen to me. Your first shift will be intense. Don't fight it. Let Lunara guide you. We're here. We've got you. The burning intensified. Ilara cried out, falling to her hands and knees as power erupted through her veins like liquid starlight. But Theron was right. This wasn't pain. This was awakening. Her bones began to flow. That was the only way to describe it. Not breaking, not snapping, but flowing like water taking new shape. Her spine lengthened, her limbs reformed, and silver-white fur erupted from her skin in waves, each strand gleaming like moonlight made solid. Energy crackled around her, sending nearby hay bales tumbling and making the barn walls groan. The transformation was beautiful and terrible. Her senses expanded. Suddenly she could smell everything, and the distinct sense of each shadow-bound member. The lingering traces of rabbits that had sheltered here months ago, the iron-rich earth beneath the barn, and beyond it all, the vast network of life stretching through the forest. She could hear the individual heartbeats of her guards, the whisper of snow still falling outside, the distant howl of wind through the mountains. And she could feel, oh goddess, she could feel the connections. The invisible threads that linked all wolves to each other, to the packs, to the moon herself. They pulsed with light and warmth, a web of belonging she'd never known existed. Her body continued to grow, larger than any alpha she'd ever seen, larger than the shadow-bound dire wolves. When the transformation finally completed, Alara stood on 4 massive paws, her head nearly touching the barn's rafters. She looked down at herself, at paws the size of dinner plates, at fur that rippled with an inner light, at a form that radiated raw, undeniable power. We are glorious, Lunara purred with satisfaction. The first howl tore from Alara's throat instinctively, a sound of joy and rage and freedom combined. The barn shook. Snow fell from the roof in cascading sheets. And in the distance, she heard answering howls as wild wolves across the territory responded to the call of their queen. The shadow-bound guards shifted as one, revealing their true forms. Each was massive, twice the size of normal pack wolves, with silver-traced fur and eyes that glowed with inner fire. They formed a circle around her and howled their allegiance, a harmony of voices that spoke of centuries of waiting, of purpose fulfilled. When silence fell, Theron, still in his dire wolf form, stepped forward and bowed his head, exposing his throat in the ultimate gesture of submission and trust. He recognizes us, Lunara said with approval, as they all do. Alara carefully shifted back to human form, the transformation easier in reverse now that she understood how it worked. She stood naked in the center of the barn, steam rising from her skin in the cold air, and felt no shame. Power hummed through every cell of her body, warm and right and hers. The female warrior had shifted as well. She approached with a bundle of clothes, practical traveling gear that would fit Alara's new frame. I'm Vera, she said as Alara dressed. Second of the Shadowbound. We've dreamed of this day for so long. I can feel them, Alara said, gesturing to the other wolves. Their emotions, their loyalty. It's like being connected to their souls. Your empathic gift, Theron said, having shifted back to human form and dressed with practiced efficiency. One of many powers you possess. You can sense emotions, soothe pain, heal wounds that should be fatal. And in time, his smile turned fierce. You'll be able to command any wolf with a thought. Their submission will be absolute. The implications settled over Alara like a mantle. Kyle rejected me, she said slowly. The pack cast me out. They have no idea what they've unleashed. No, Theron agreed. They don't. Tell me the prophecy, Alara commanded. All of it. Theron nodded and began to recite, his voice taking on a ritual cadence. When the blood moon rises and the old packs fall to greed, the matriarch will wake, a born of suffering and need. She will be starlight and fury, gentle rain and ruthless storm, rejected by the broken, embraced by those who keep true form. 10 guardians of shadow will pledge their ancient might, and she will come when hope has fled, to set all things to right. The words resonated through Alara's bones. She'd heard them before, fragments in children's rhymes, half-remembered verses whispered by elderly wolves. She'd never known they spoke of her. And now? She asked. What happens now? Now, Theron said, we train you. We help you master your gifts. And when you're ready, his eyes glinted like steel. We remind the packs who the true power is. Alara looked at her hands, still glowing faintly with residual energy, and felt Lunara's presence wrapped around her consciousness like armor. She was no longer the weak Omega who scrubbed floors and kept her eyes down. She was no longer the broken girl who'd been rejected and cast out. She was Alara Whitestone, the matriarch, and her reign was just beginning. Days turned to weeks as Alara learned to wield her power. The Shadowbound had a hidden compound deep in neutral territory, a series of caves that had been modified over centuries into a proper fortress, complete with training grounds, living quarters, and a vast library of ancient texts. It was here that Alara began to understand the scope of what she'd become. Theron proved to be an exacting but patient teacher. Each morning began before dawn with combat training. He'd circle her in the sparring ring, his movements fluid and deadly, while she learned to anticipate attacks through scent and emotion as much as sight. You're thinking too much, he said one morning, easily dodging her strike. Trust your instincts. Let Lunara guide your movements. Alara growled in frustration but obeyed, letting her consciousness merge more fully with her wolf. Immediately, the world snapped into sharper focus. She could smell Theron's intent a split second before he moved. Aged oak tinged with the metallic edge of concentration. She ducked under his swing and countered with a move that sent him stumbling back. Better, he said with approval. Again. They sparred until sweat soaked through her training clothes, then moved to shifting practice. Alara could transform fully now, but Theron taught her partial shifts, claws without the full change, enhanced senses while maintaining human form, the ability to speak mind to mind with other wolves even when standing on two legs. Control is everything, Vera explained during one afternoon session. Raw power wins fights, controlled power wins wars. The other Shadowbound each contributed to her education. Finn, a grizzled warrior with only one ear and a wicked sense of humor, taught her tracking and stealth. Even a matriarch needs to know how to disappear, he said with a gap-toothed grin. Kira and Soren, twin siblings with matching white streaks in their dark hair, worked with her on her empathic abilities. They'd project emotions at her, fear, joy, rage, sorrow, while she learned to identify and separate each thread. Now try soothing, Kira instructed. Feel my anxiety and push calm toward it. Alara focused on the tight, jagged sensation emanating from Kira and gently wrapped it in her own energy, warm and soft as morning dew. Kira's shoulders relaxed, her breathing evening out. Goddess, Kira breathed. That's incredible. Imagine doing that to an entire army, Soren said quietly. You could end battles without bloodshed. But Alara also learned she could do the opposite. During a demonstration for the full guard, she'd projected fury at a practice dummy, and the nearby wolves had fled in terror, unable to withstand the overwhelming emotion. Your power is twofold, Theron explained that evening. They sat by the fire in the main hall, the rest of the guard dispersed to their duties. You can heal and soothe, but you can also dominate and command. The matriarch is both nurturer and warrior. Both require strength. I don't want to be cruel, Alara said softly. I don't want to become like Kale. Theron reached out and cupped her face gently, his calloused thumb brushing her cheek. The gesture was intimate without being sexual, and it made her breath catch. You could never be like him, he said with absolute certainty. Do you know why? Why? Because you've known suffering. You understand what it means to be powerless, to be discarded. That compassion will temper your strength. That's what makes you worthy of the power you wield. Something warm bloomed in Alara's chest. Not the mate bond she'd felt with Kaal, but something deeper. Something chosen rather than fated. She'd learned that Theron had no destined mate. He'd been born without one, blessed by the goddess instead with his extended life and singular purpose. But looking into his silver blue eyes, feeling the way his scent made her feel safe and seen and valued, Alara thought that maybe chosen bonds were stronger than fated ones anyway. The moment stretched between them, charged with possibility. Then Marcus, the youngest of the Shadowbound, burst into the hall. Theron, we've got movement on the northern border. Scout party. 3 wolves. They've picked up Alara's scent. The tender moment shattered. Theron was on his feet in an instant, his expression hardening into the warrior's mask he wore so well. How far? He demanded. 2 hours, maybe less. They're moving fast. Alara stood as well, Lunara already stirring within her. It's Silvercrest, she said with certainty. They've found me. Theron's jaw clenched. You're not ready for a full confrontation. Maybe not, Alara agreed. But I won't hide anymore. If they want to find me, let them come. Theron studied her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Then we prepare. Marcus, gather the guard. Full defensive positions. Alara? He turned to her. Stay close to me. If this goes badly... It won't, Alara interrupted. She could feel Lunara's confidence flowing through her, steady and sure. They rejected me once. They don't get to claim me again. The scent of the coming storm hung heavy in the air, pine and ice and the electric charge of impending violence. Somewhere out there, Silvercrest was mobilizing. And this time, when they faced Alara Whitestone, they would learn exactly what they'd thrown away. The war party arrived at dawn. Alara stood at the entrance to the Shadowbound compound, flanked by Theron on her right and Vera on her left, and the other 8 guard members formed a semicircle behind her, all in human form but radiating enough power to make the air shimmer. She could smell them coming, 23 distinct scents, a mix of alphas and betas. And at the front, unmistakable, the scent of forest and embers and ozone and steel. Kyle. They emerged from the tree line in wolf form, a coordinated pack moving with military precision. They were impressive, sleek and powerful, their formation speaking of years of training together. At their head was a massive black wolf that could only be Kale, his amber eyes fixed on Alara with an intensity that made Lunara snarl. Let me tear out his throat, Lunara demanded. Patience, Alara soothed. Let's see what they want first. The war party stopped 50 yards away. Kale shifted first, his transformation smooth and practiced. He stood naked in the snow, utterly unself-conscious in his nudity, the mate mark he'd given to Mira visible on his chest. A black crescent moon wrapped in thorns. The sight of it should have hurt. Instead, Alara felt only cold satisfaction. Alara Whitestone, Kyle called out, his voice carrying across the distance. You were cast out of Silvercrest territory. You're in violation of pack law by remaining so close to our borders. These aren't your borders, Alara replied calmly. This is neutral land. I have every right to be here. You have no rights, a female voice spat. Mira stepped forward, having shifted as well. Her perfect golden curls were slightly mussed from the run, and her eyes glittered with malice. The scent of cinnamon and iron and blood intensified. "You're a rogue. I'm an outcast. You should have died in the storm." "And yet," Alara said softly, "here I am." She felt Theron's hand brush against hers, a brief touch of support and warning. She squeezed his fingers once, then released them. Kyle's nostrils flared. His gaze moved to Theron, taking in the older male's protective stance, the obvious power radiating from him. "And who are you?" "Someone far beyond your authority," Theron replied mildly. "This is pack business," Kyle growled. "Stay out of it." "Pack business?" Alara laughed, and the sound was nothing like the timid girl who'd scrubbed floors. This laugh was sharp as broken glass. "You rejected me. You cast me out. I have no pack, remember? So how can this possibly be pack business?" Uncertainty flickered across Kale's face. Behind him, several of his wolves whined nervously, and they could sense something was different about Alara, even if they didn't understand what. "You're coming back to Silvercrest," Cal declared, trying to reclaim his authority. "You'll face proper judgment before the Alpha. I refuse." The simple words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Kale's expression darkened. "That wasn't a request." "And yet," Alara said, taking a step forward, "I still refuse." Mira snarled. "You don't get to refuse an Alpha's command, you worthless—" She lunged. It was a stupid move, born of arrogance and fury. Mira shifted mid-leap, her golden wolf form hurtling toward Alara with fangs bared and claws extended. She was fast, beta speed, enhanced by rage. Alara was faster. She didn't even shift. One moment Mira was airborne, death in her eyes. The next, Alara had moved, a blur of motion that left afterimages, and caught the attacking wolf by the throat. Power flooded through her hand, and Mira's wolf form seized, paralyzed by the sheer dominance rolling off Alara in waves. The scent of Alara's power washed over the assembled wolves, lavender and morning dew and wildflowers, but beneath it something vast and ancient that made every single wolf drop to their bellies in instinctive submission. Even Kale went down, his eyes wide with shock. Alara held Mira suspended in the air, the beta's struggles growing weaker as the dominance sank into her bones. "You tried to kill me," Alara said conversationally, "in front of witnesses. That's a death sentence by pack law, isn't it?" Mira whimpered. "But I'm feeling merciful today," Alara continued. She released her hold, and Mira dropped to the ground in a heap, immediately shifting back to human form. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to slink back to whatever hole you crawled out of, and you're going to remember this moment every time you think about challenging someone you perceive as weak." Mira scrambled backward, terror in her eyes. Alara turned her attention to Kale. "Stand up." He obeyed automatically, his body responding to her command before his mind could catch up. Rage flashed across his face at the involuntary submission. "What are you?" he demanded. "I'm the wolf you rejected," Alara said. "I'm the Omega you thought was worthless. I'm the mate you discarded in front of your entire pack." She smiled, and it was all teeth. "And I'm so much more than you ever deserved." Behind her, the shadow-bound guard shifted as one. 10 massive dire wolves materialized, each one dwarfing the largest alpha in Kale's war party. Their silver-gray fur rippled with power, and their eyes glowed like captured starlight. The scent of shock and fear exploded from the Silvercrest wolves. "These are my guard," Alara announced. "The Shadowbound, ancient protectors blessed by the moon goddess herself. They've been waiting for me. Because I'm not an Omega, Kale." She let her own transformation begin, fur rippling across her skin, her form growing. "I never was." Her shift was controlled this time, deliberate. She rose to her full matriarch height, towering over even the dire wolves, her silver-white fur gleaming in the dawn light, her eyes burning with inner fire. The sheer size of her made several of Kale's wolves whimper in terror. "And I am Lunara," her wolf's voice echoed in the minds of every wolf present. "I am the matriarch. And you will kneel." The command was absolute. Every single Silvercrest wolf dropped to their bellies. their wills overridden by power older than their pack lines. Even in wolf form, Alara could see tears streaming down Kale's face. Not from sadness, but from the sheer force of the dominance pressing down on him. This is what you rejected, Alara projected directly into Kale's mind. This is the destiny you threw away for political advantage. How does it feel? Kale's mental voice was broken, awed. Forgive me, please. I didn't know. Forgive you? Alara shifted back to human form, her nakedness a declaration of power rather than vulnerability. Vera stepped forward with a cloak, which Alara wrapped around her shoulders. Ma, you didn't reject me because you didn't know what I was. You rejected me because you thought I was weak, because you valued appearances and politics over the gift the moon goddess gave you. Mercy, Kale whispered, still prostrate before her. Please, I was wrong. I see that now. The bond. I can still feel it, like a phantom limb. We could try again. No, Alara said flatly. The rejection she threw at him now was nothing like his public humiliation of her. It was simple, final, true. I don't want you, Kale Thornridge. Even if you begged for the rest of your life, even if you crawled across broken glass to reach me, I would never choose you. You had your chance. You made your choice. Now live with it. She turned her attention to the rest of the war party. Return to Silvercrest, or tell Alpha Rowan that the matriarch has risen. Tell him that these lands, she gestured to the forest around them, are now under my protection. Any wolf, pack or rogue, may seek sanctuary here. Any wolf who is cast out, rejected, or discarded will find safety. And if Silvercrest or any other pack tries to interfere, her smile was cold. You've seen my guard. You've felt my power. Don't test me. This is our territory, one of the alphas protested weakly. Was, Alara corrected. It was your territory. I'm claiming it now, by right of strength and divine mandate. Challenge me, if you dare. No one moved. Mira Blackwood, Alara called out. The beta flinched. You struck at me unprovoked. By pack law, I could demand your life. Instead, I strip you of your rank. You are now Omega. Serve your pack well, and perhaps one day you'll earn back what you've lost. The scent of Mira's horror was palpable. To go from a powerful beta, chosen by an alpha heir, to the lowest rank, it was a fate worse than death to someone like her. As for you, Kale, Alara continued, I curse you with awareness. You'll never forget what you rejected. Every time you look at Mira, you'll feel the phantom bond. Every time you make a decision as alpha, you'll wonder what would have happened if you'd chosen differently. You'll live a long life, and every day of it will be haunted by this moment. Kale's face crumpled. Alara. I am the matriarch, she corrected icily. And we are done here. Leave, now. The command snapped through the air like a whip. The Silvercrest wolves scrambled to their feet and fled, their tails between their legs, whimpering in terror and shame. Kyle was the last to go, looking back once with desperate, pleading eyes. Alara watched them go without mercy. When the last scent of them had faded from the forest, she finally allowed herself to sag. Theron was there instantly, his strong arms catching her. That was magnificent, he murmured into her hair. That was terrifying, Alara replied. I wanted to kill them. Lunara wanted to hunt them down But you didn't, Theron interrupted gently. You chose justice over vengeance. You chose to be better than they are. That's what makes you worthy. Alara pulled back to look at him. What happens now? Now, Theron said, his expression softening. We build something new. A pack based on strength and compassion. A sanctuary for the lost and rejected. A kingdom worthy of its queen. And you? Alara asked. What do you want? Theron cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. I want to stand beside you, to protect you, to help you build this dream. I've waited centuries for you, Alara, not because of prophecy or duty, but because, he smiled, because you're extraordinary. And if you'll have me, not as a fated mate but as a chosen partner, I would consider it the greatest honor of my very long life. The bond that snapped into place between them was nothing like the fated bond with Kale. It was deliberate, forged in fire and choice and mutual respect. When Theron kissed her, she felt its seal. Not a golden thread imposed by destiny, but a silver chain they'd built together. This, Lunara purred with deep satisfaction. This is what a mate should be. Around them, the shadow-bound guard howled their approval, a sound of joy and celebration that echoed through the mountains, announcing to the world that the matriarch had claimed her throne. And somewhere in the distance, carried on the wind, Alara heard answering howls. Rogues and outcasts and wolves who'd been waiting for someone to offer them hope. Her reign had truly begun. 6 months later, the sanctuary, as Alara's territory had come to be known, was thriving. Word had spread through the wolf world about the matriarch and her open borders. Wolves arrived weekly, some alone, some in small groups. Omegas who'd been abused. Betas who'd questioned their pack's corruption. Even a few alphas who'd lost their packs to violence or politics. Ilara welcomed them all. She'd established new laws, written down and taught to every member of the growing community. No wolf would be judged by rank alone. Strength would be respected, but so would wisdom, compassion, and skill. Mates could be fated or chosen, both equally valid. And most importantly, no wolf would ever be cast out for being too weak again. The Shadowbound helped her enforce these laws, but they also helped her build infrastructure. Vera oversaw combat training for all members. Finn established a scouting network that kept them informed of threats. The twins, Kira and Soren, ran a healing house where Alara's empathic abilities could be taught to those with even a hint of the gift. And Theron stood beside her as she transformed from a broken girl into a queen. They'd completed their mating ceremony under the full moon, or Ilara's mark on his throat glowing silver white, while his mark on hers gleamed deep blue. The sanctuary had celebrated for 3 days, their joy infectious. Alara stood now on a cliff overlooking her territory, watching the sun set over the forest that had nearly killed her. Theron approached from behind, wrapping his arms around her waist and resting his chin on her shoulder. "Thinking deep thoughts?" he murmured. "Thinking about how much has changed," Alara replied. 6 months ago, I thought I was dying in that barn. And now? Now you're the most powerful wolf in 3 territories, Theron finished. Now you have a mate who worships you, a guard who would die for you, and a pack who chose you freely. It still doesn't feel real sometimes, Alara admitted. She turned in his arms to face him. Do you think Kale regrets it? Or truly? I know he does, Theron said. I've heard the reports. He barely sleeps. Mira has become bitter and cruel in her new Omega status, making his life miserable. And the Silvercrest pack is fracturing. Several families have petitioned to join us instead. Good, Alara said, then immediately felt guilty for the vindictive thought. Theron laughed. You're allowed to feel satisfaction at his suffering, love. It doesn't make you cruel. It makes you human. Wolf, Alara corrected with a smile. Human enough to feel conflicted about your power, Theron amended. That's what I love about you. You could crush any pack that opposes you, but you choose mercy. You could demand absolute submission, but you ask for loyalty instead. You're everything the matriarch was prophesied to be, and more. Alara leaned up to kiss him, soft and sweet. His scent, aged oak and winter snow and pine and storm, had become her favorite thing in the world. A howl interrupted them. Marcus, in wolf form, signaling from the northern border. Alara and Theron shifted immediately and raced through the forest, the rest of the Shadowbound joining them along the way. They arrived at the border to find Marcus standing over 2 wolves, an older couple, thin and ragged, their scents familiar in a way that made Alara's heart clench. Her parents. They were in human form now, kneeling in the snow, their heads bowed. Her mother was crying. Her father's shoulders shook with silent sobs. Alara, her mother whispered, please, we've come to confess, to beg forgiveness. Every member of the Shadowbound tensed, waiting for Alara's command. One word, and these 2 would be torn apart for what they'd done. But Alara remembered Theron's words. You choose mercy. That's what makes you worthy. She shifted to human form. Speak, she commanded. Her father looked up, and the anguish in his eyes was genuine. We were young when you were born, he began. When the blood moon rose and the goddess marked you, we panicked. The prophecy spoke of great power but also great danger, that the matriarch would face trials that would test her very soul. We thought we were protecting you by suppressing your wolf. You thought you were protecting yourselves, Alara corrected coldly. You didn't want the responsibility of raising the matriarch. You wanted a normal life. Yes, her mother sobbed. Yes, that's true. We were cowards. We bound your power and told ourselves it was for your own good. And then we watched you suffer for 20 years, knowing we'd done it to you, and we said nothing. We let you be treated as Omega. We let you be rejected and cast out. She covered her face with her hands. We're monsters. Silence fell. Alara looked at them, these two wolves who'd given her life but stolen her power, and felt Lunara stirring within her. They wronged us, Lunara said. We could punish them, cast them out as they did to us. We could, Alara agreed. But is that who we want to be? She crouched down to their level. You stole 20 years of my life. You let me believe I was worthless. You stood silent while I was humiliated and rejected. Her voice shook with controlled fury. The binding shattered when Kel rejected me. Do you understand what that means? It means your betrayal was written into the prophecy. It means the moon goddess knew you'd fail me. Her father's sobs turned to wails. We're sorry. We're so sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back those years, Alara said. But, she took a deep breath. You can earn redemption. It will take time, years, maybe decades. You'll serve the sanctuary as Omegas. You'll help build what you tried to destroy. And if one day I believe your remorse is genuine, she stood, then maybe I'll forgive you. Maybe. Hope flickered in her mother's eyes. You'll let us stay? On probation, Alara confirmed. One wrong move, one hint of betrayal, and you're banished permanently. Understood? Yes, they said in unison. Thank you. Thank you, matriarch. Alara gestured to Marcus. Take them to the initiation house, standard protocol. As her parents were led away, Theron materialized beside her. That was generous of you. Or stupid, Alara sighed. Time will tell. I don't think it was either, Theron said thoughtfully. I think it was the choice of a true leader. One who understands that justice isn't always about punishment. Sometimes it's about giving people the chance to become better. Alara leaned into his warmth. I hope you're right. A new scent drifted on the wind, something old and dark and wrong. Theron stiffened, his eyes scanning the horizon. What is it? Alara asked. I don't know, Theron admitted. But I felt it earlier too. Like something watching us. Waiting. Alara's enhanced senses reached out, searching. For a moment she thought she caught it. The scent of ancient magic, of old gods and older monsters. Then it was gone, like mist burned away by morning sun. Madi, the blood moon rises again in 3 months, Vera said quietly, having shifted to human form. The prophecy spoke of trials, matriarch. Your awakening was only the beginning. Alara looked up at the sky where the moon hung pale and peaceful. But she could feel it, the sense of gathering storm, of challenges yet to come. She'd faced rejection, near death, and the revelation of her true nature. She'd built a sanctuary and established herself as a power to be respected. But somewhere out there, something ancient was stirring. And the matriarch's greatest trial was still ahead. But she wasn't the broken Omega anymore. She was Alara Whitestone, mate to Theron Ashwood, leader of the Shadowbound, protector of the lost and rejected. She had found her family, claimed her power, and built something worth fighting for. Whatever came next, she would face it as herself, completely, finally, gloriously herself. The journey wasn't over. But standing there, surrounded by her chosen pack, Alara realized something crucial. She was finally, truly home. And so Alara's journey from rejected Omega to the matriarch had transformed not just her own life, but the lives of countless wolves who'd found hope in her sanctuary. She'd learned that true strength comes not from the power you're born with, but from how you choose to wield it. That chosen bonds can be stronger than fated ones. That mercy is its own kind of courage. and that sometimes the people who reject you are simply clearing the path to your true destiny. The wolves of the sanctuary whispered her story around fires at night, of the Omega who became a queen, the rejected mate who found true love, on the bound wolf who shattered her chains and rose to claim her throne. It was a story of suffering and triumph, of betrayal and redemption, of justice tempered with compassion. But more than that, it was a story about becoming who you were always meant to be. What do you think? Was justice truly served? Could Alara's parents ever be forgiven? And what ancient evil stirs in the shadows, waiting for its chance to strike when the blood moon rises again? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you love this story, please like this video and share it with fellow werewolf romance fans. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss the next chapter of the Matriarch Saga. Because trust me, this story is far from over. Thank you for listening to the tale of Alara Whitestone and the Shadowbound Guard. We'll see you in the next chapter where new threats emerge and old powers awaken. Until then, may the Moon Goddess guide your path.